You know, when someone suddenly withdraws intimacy, it can feel like the ground has shifted beneath your feet. You start to question yourself, your worth, your desirability. You wonder what changed, what you did wrong, what you could have done differently. But the truth is, this isn't about your value, it's about control. When someone uses affection as a weapon, they're not seeking connection, they're seeking power. In that silence, in that rejection, there's an unspoken attempt to make you feel small, to make you chase validation, to make you forget who you are. But you don't have to play that game. The moment you stop trying to earn love that should flow naturally, you reclaim your strength. You remember that your body, your emotions, your energy, they're sacred. This is your reminder that withholding doesn't define you. Your beauty, your passion, your light, none of that can be dimmed by someone else's emptiness. You are enough. You always were. There comes a time when you start to see through the mask, when the charm that once felt magnetic begins to show cracks, and you realize something deeper has been at play all along. Understanding the narcissist's emotional game is not about hating or blaming. It's about waking up. It's about seeing how control was dressed up as love, how attention was used as a leash, and how your kindness became the very thing they fed on. This game was never about partnership. It was about power. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you begin to reclaim your peace. The narcissist's emotional game is built on confusion. One day, they lift you so high that you feel unstoppable. The next, they tear you down so low that you question your worth. They twist affection into reward, silence into punishment, and guilt into obedience. They study your heart, learn your weaknesses, and then use your own empathy to keep you bound. You find yourself walking on eggshells, chasing the version of them that only existed when they wanted something from you. That's how they win. By keeping you uncertain, apologetic, and addicted to moments of temporary approval. But once you see the pattern, you take back the power they never truly owned. You start realizing that their behavior was never a reflection of your shortcomings, but of their emptiness. The love they offered was conditional because it was never real connection. It was transaction. They give when it benefits them, withdraw when it strengthens control. It's not intimacy they seek, it's dominance. And when you finally stop reacting to every push and pull, when you stop begging for clarity, they lose what they crave most. Your emotional response. The silence you once feared becomes your strength. The distance you once avoided becomes your freedom. Understanding their emotional game doesn't mean you become cold or bitter. It means you become wise. You stop personalizing their manipulation and you start studying it. You recognize that their flattery was strategy, their attention was bait, and their rejection was design. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Why did I allow this?" That shift changes everything. Because now you're no longer a player in their game. You're the one walking off the board entirely. This understanding is your awakening. It's where confusion turns into clarity and pain turns into purpose. You learn to protect your energy, to set boundaries, to choose peace over chaos. You realize that love is not supposed to hurt, not supposed to control, not supposed to make you feel small. It's supposed to build, not break. And once you understand that truth, no one can ever play with your emotions the same way again. You've seen behind the curtain, and you found your strength on the other side of deception. That's where freedom begins, in awareness, in truth, and in the courage to never be controlled again. There's a moment that comes after all the confusion, all the self-blame, all the sleepless nights of wondering what went wrong. And that moment is when you finally realize it was never about your worth. It was never about you not being enough, not being attractive enough, not being loving enough. It was about someone who could not see your value because they were too blinded by their own emptiness. Recognizing that truth is where the healing begins, because for the first time, you stop carrying a burden that was never yours to bear. You see, people who manipulate love do it because they cannot create it. They feed off attention, not affection. They crave validation, not connection. They don't stop showing you love because you lost it. They stop because control stops working when you start waking up. Their withdrawal, their coldness, their silence. None of that is a mirror of your failure. It's a reflection of their fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of being seen. Fear of facing the truth that love cannot exist where manipulation lives. When you start recognizing that, you stop asking what's wrong with you, and you start realizing everything that's right with you. You start seeing how your compassion was never a weakness, it was your power. You start understanding that your sensitivity wasn't something to fix. It was something that made you human, something that made you capable of real love. The pain you felt wasn't proof that you were broken. It was proof that you were alive, that you cared, that you gave something genuine to someone who couldn't meet you there. And that's not shameful. That's strength. The fact that you loved deeply in a world that sometimes confuses love with control. That's what makes you rare, when you begin to see your worth for what it truly is. Unshakable, inherent, non-negotiable. Everything changes. You stop chasing after people who treat your love like a convenience. You stop shrinking yourself to fit inside their small version of love. You stop accepting crumbs because you finally remember you deserve the whole table. You realize that being loved by someone else is not proof of your value. Your value exists whether someone recognizes it or not. You could be the most loyal, giving, beautiful soul, and someone still might not know what to do with you. And that's okay. That's not your problem to solve. You begin to rebuild from the inside out. You remind yourself every day that you are not defined by the way someone mistreated you, ghosted you, or made you feel invisible. You are defined by how you rise after it. You are defined by the courage it takes to still believe in love, even after being hurt by it. Because that kind of resilience, that kind of heart, that kind of faith, that's what makes you unstoppable. You stop seeking validation and start living in truth. You stop waiting for someone to make you feel special and start realizing you already are. And when that moment comes, when you finally know in your bones that you are enough, something powerful happens. You walk differently. You speak differently. You attract differently. You stop entertaining people who drain your energy because your spirit now recognizes peace. You begin to glow from within, not because someone gave you permission to, but because you finally gave it to yourself. Recognizing that it's not about your worth sets you free. You start loving without losing yourself, giving without expecting in return, and walking away without regret. You understand that you can't control who fails to see your light, but you can control how brightly you shine. And that realization, that deep, unshakable knowing, becomes the moment your healing turns into power. A breaking free from emotional dependency isn't about cutting someone off. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about realizing that the thing you were craving from someone else, the validation, the comfort, the sense of being enough, was something you had the power to give yourself all along. You spent so long chasing peace in their approval that you forgot what it felt like to breathe without asking permission. But there comes a day when you wake up and decide that you're done being addicted to the highs and lows, the apologies and the promises that never come true. That day, my friend, is the day you start to heal emotional. Dependency feels like being trapped in a loop. You give and give, hoping that this time they'll finally see you, appreciate you, love you the way you deserve. But what you don't realize is that the more you depend on someone for your happiness, the more power you hand them to destroy it. You begin to lose your balance, your boundaries, your peace. You start living for their attention instead of your own purpose. Breaking free means pulling that power back. It means learning that your emotions are yours to protect, not theirs to control. It means knowing that silence from them doesn't have to mean chaos. Within you, freedom starts small. It begins with noticing when you're waiting for a message that never comes, when you're replaying conversations, trying to find where you went wrong. It's in those quiet moments that you start to remind yourself that closure doesn't come from someone else. It comes from you deciding you deserve better. You stop explaining your worth, stop justifying your feelings, stop begging to be understood. You take that energy and pour it into rebuilding your strength, your joy, your faith. You stop chasing love that hurts and start choosing love that heals. Beginning with your own, breaking free from emotional dependency is a process of remembering who you were before the confusion, before the control, before you believed you weren't enough. You start trusting your instincts again. You listen to your heart, but follow your peace. You build a life that doesn't revolve around anyone else's moods or manipulation. You fill your days with purpose, with people who lift you higher, with silence that feels safe instead of scary. Every step you take without needing their approval, you grow stronger. Every boundary you hold, you take back another piece of yourself and one day you realize something powerful. You no longer crave what once broke you. You don't need their attention to feel alive, their affection to feel worthy, or their validation to feel seen. You become whole again, not because they came back, but because you came back to yourself. That's what true freedom feels like. It's quiet, it's steady, it's peaceful. It's knowing that your happiness is in your hands now. And that's exactly where it belongs. There comes a point when you've cried all the tears, questioned all the whys, and you're left staring at yourself in the mirror. Not the broken version, not the lost one, but the one who survived. That's where rebuilding confidence and self-love begins. It starts with a quiet decision, a whisper in your soul that says, I'm done letting pain define me. You stop waiting for someone to validate you and start reminding yourself that you were whole before anyone ever tried to break you. You begin to see that confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being at peace with who you are, flaws and all. Rebuilding yourself is not about pretending you're fine. It's about slowly piecing yourself back together with grace. You forgive yourself for the times you accepted less, for the times you stayed silent when you should have spoken, for the moments you forgot your own worth, trying to prove it to someone else. Forgiveness is where freedom begins. You start keeping small promises to yourself, waking up, showing up, trying again. And with every promise kept, your self-trust grows stronger. That trust becomes the foundation of your confidence. Self-love is not loud, it's steady. It's saying no without guilt. It's choosing peace over chaos. It's treating yourself the way you once wished others would. It's no longer begging to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. You start walking differently, because you're no longer carrying the weight of needing to be enough for someone else. You begin to fill your life with purpose, with joy, with the kind of energy that reminds you of your strength. And piece by piece, you start recognizing that the person who once doubted her worth is gone, and the one standing in her place is unshakable one day. You'll look back and realize the confidence you lost didn't disappear. It was just buried under pain, waiting for you to uncover it again. You'll see that self-love isn't something you find, it's something you build every day. And when you build it strong enough, nothing and no one can take it away. That's the moment you stop surviving and start living. Knowing your worth, walking in your truth, and loving yourself without apology. There comes a time when you get tired of replaying the same pain, tired of giving energy to someone who no longer deserves a place in your peace. That's the moment you begin to move forward. The moment you start healing beyond their control. It's not about erasing the past, it's about learning from it, rising above it, and choosing not to let it shape the rest of your life. You begin to see that their power over you was never real. It only existed as long as you kept believing you needed their approval to feel whole. Healing starts when you stop waiting for closure from the same person who caused the wound. You stop asking for explanations that will never come, and instead, you give yourself the peace they couldn't. You learn to find comfort in your own silence, to trust your own heart again. You begin to realize that love doesn't hurt like that. That real love builds, it doesn't destroy. You stop chasing what broke you and start rebuilding what they couldn't touch. Your strength, your purpose, your faith. That's where the healing begins. In the space where you choose yourself instead of the pain. Moving forward means taking back everything You gave away trying to be enough for someone who never intended to meet you halfway. You stop letting their voice echo in your mind and start replacing it with your own truth. You remind yourself that peace is not weakness, it's power. You start investing your time in things that make your soul come alive again. Your growth, your joy, your freedom. Every step away from their control is a step toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. One day, you'll look back and realize that what once felt like an ending was really a beginning. You'll see that their silence no longer hurts, their memory no longer stings, and your heart, your beautiful, resilient heart, beats stronger than ever. You've learned that you don't need to be chosen by anyone to feel worthy. You've already been chosen by the most important person in your life. You. That's what it means to move forward. That's what it means to heal beyond their control. In the end, healing is not about forgetting the pain, but transforming it into power. It's about standing tall after being broken, speaking softly after being silenced, and loving yourself after being taught to doubt your worth. You've walked through fire and come out shining brighter than before. You've learned that peace is not given, it's claimed. You've learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every single time you do. This is your new beginning, a chapter written not from fear, but from freedom. You no longer chase love that costs you your peace. You now protect your peace as the foundation of your life. You no longer look for validation in others. You find it in the reflection of your own courage. You have taken back your voice, your dignity, your power. And as you move forward, remember, what once tried to break you has built you. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you've become because of it. Walk with faith, lead with strength, and let your light remind the world that you cannot be controlled. You can only rise,